Welcome. What is up? This is the Innate Effect podcast with Dr. Alex DeFrancisco, where we talk about everything from health to wellness to business and mindset in the everyday life of a pediatric chiropractor. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. Welcome. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Innate Effect podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex DeFrancisco, and joining me today is a very good friend of mine. He's like a brother to me, mostly because he is a brother to me. He's a colleague also, Dr. Colton O'Brien of Trinity Life Chiropractic in Allen, Texas. He's a nervous system-based chiropractor for the entire family. He's got some really great insight on a family practice and just what chiropractic can do, not only for you, but for your kids, for your whole family, and what it's done for his life. So, Dr. Colton, what's going on, sir?
What's up? What's up? Hey, happy to be here, man. When I got the text to be on this, I jumped for joy in my seat. So just excited to share my experience in chiropractic and chat with you like the old days.
Yeah, I'm loving getting to say that. It's got a really good ring to it, Dr. Colton, doesn't it? Have you gotten used to it?
That's right. I'm like teetering. Like, do I use Dr. Colton? Do I use Dr. O'Brien? It's like people aren't going to know who I am because I use both interchangeably.
Oh, it's a decision that you got to make. I went full force into Dr. DeFrancisco is way too long.
That's true. That's true.
All right, well, give us a little bit of background. Where did you go to school? Where are you from? Kind of give us the lay of the land.
Okay, well, I was not born, but I was raised in the big city of Dimmitt, Texas. So that was sarcasm. So I grew up in a small little farming community called Dimmitt, in between Amarillo and Lubbock. So mostly corn, cattle. Just good, humble lifestyle up there. And eventually moved up to Amarillo for my high school career. I had this dream of being an NBA basketball player. Would you believe it? And that didn't work out. But during that time, I found chiropractic, which was really cool. But did my undergrad at Texas Tech University, proud Red Raider alum. And then I went on to Parker University, where I met Alex and had just an awesome time in chiropractic school. And now I'm about 8 months out of school now. So rocking and rolling.
Bringing chiropractic to the masses. I love it. I love the humble beginnings story. So like you had mentioned, you said that's kind of where you had found chiropractic somewhere in there. Kind of give us the idea, like, how did that happen? What did you do? Who was the inspiration?
Cool. Yeah. I'll just kind of tell my story about walking into chiropractic, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, let it roll.
Cool. So like I said, I had one dream, one goal my whole life was really to have fun and play basketball. That's really like all I focused on. And so, played basketball from sun up to sundown. Then, high school came around. And so I moved to a bigger school so I could kind of potentially maybe get some looks, just grow and develop as a basketball player. Anyway, so during that time, I, had a few challenges, but one of them was a physical challenge. You could just tell my body was not functioning at its very best. I had little things pop up. I broke my ankles like a few times. I had plantar fasciitis pretty bad, but then there was a specific tournament. We were playing in Oklahoma, and I was going up for a layup, and no one was around me. I made the layup, but I came down and my legs just like collapsed from underneath me. I'm a kid with no prior back problems, nothing like that. I'm maybe 15, maybe 16 years old, and I army crawl off the basketball court, just like freaky situation. So we're in Elk City, Oklahoma, and I sat in the hot tub for the next day and a half. It felt like few breaks in between that. I don't know if that was right or not, but on that Sunday night, we were driving back, and I was still just excruciating pain, could move my legs at that point, but just don't know where this pain was coming from. And I had a neighbor who I didn't really think of as a chiropractor, but he was a chiropractor, lived directly across the street from my family. Never been to a chiropractor before in my life. No one in my family really has. And so my mom called him that Sunday night, and it's maybe 11 by the time we get back home, and he says, come over. Like, he wasn't like, hey, I'll see you in the office tomorrow. He said, when he gets here, come over. And so first thought was just like, man, what a servant heart. That's so cool. Like, that he's just willing to just take care of me in his home. And I thought, man, how great is it that you can help someone with just your hands and a table? But I was really just focused on feeling better. So over the course of a few weeks, I was just kind of going in and out of this practice, just wanting to feel better, wanting to get ready for basketball season because that was summer ball when that happened. And I remember vividly, faith and God has always been just foundational in my life. And when I just feel like at times I just receive a word from God or a hunch or like just intuition, like God is speaking to me. And I was laying face down on the table. Like I said, I've never thought about being in anything other than a basketball player. And I go, I think I could do this. Like, I think this would be a fun job. Like, he's on his feet all day. It seems like an athletics skill, and he's making people happy and he's serving. And so my dreams changed from being a basketball player to a chiropractor. And then, kind of had a few hurdles at the end of school, which ended up making me who I am. So I'm grateful for those. And then went to Texas Tech and just knew I was going to be a chiropractor. But my first thing was like, let's just get through undergrad. I always wanted to graduate from Tech, so I enjoyed my time there. Waited tables, yada yada. Knew I was going to chiropractic school, but I didn't really do the work to learn about chiropractic in undergrad. I had my fun, to a detriment at times, and so that's part of my story as well. But end up going to chiropractic school in 2019, and I was this kid as I was growing up. I struggled with ADD, dyslexia. I never felt truly at home in my body. Like I didn't really know if it was like anxiety or depression, but like just I felt turbulent inside looking back on it. And I had a lot of problems. Like even I'm open to share this on here. Like I was one of those kids that like I was worried about my future because like I couldn't stop wetting the bed even when I was in junior high. Like so like obviously my body was like in just had some chaos going on. But I get to chiropractic school. I get around guys like Alex and Grant Bennington and Zach and Spencer and Dr. and Maurice and like guys like that really had like a huge impact on my life and inspired me to like pursue chiropractic, like not just be there for school, but really learn what it means to be a chiropractor, understand the philosophy and really dive in headfirst. And so with that came along a mentor. His name's Dr. Levi Richards. Awesome man. If you know him, you love him. It's as easy as I can say it. And went on a mission trip with him. I was on ADD medication since the beginning of college, just to make my grades to even try and get to chiropractic school. And he looked at me one day and he's like, you need to be under care. And he's practicing network at this time. And I'm like, network? That's witchcraft stuff. Like, I don't know about that. Like I'm good with my like,
yeah. So go into a little bit about for people that don't know what that is. Kind of give them the quick 2-minute version of why that's different from maybe a different version of chiropractic.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So my exposure to chiropractic has been moving bones, and most times you hear it make a sound, like you hear that pop, that crack, right? And then, but I understood how that was affecting the nervous system and releasing tension off the spinal nerves and spinal cords, so our brain and our body could communicate fully. That made sense to me. What didn't make sense to me was what I was now embarking on, which was network care, which is strictly very gentle touch to help unwind stress and tension in the nervous system and spinal cord. So that's a really basic way to describe it. It's what we call more tonal care chiropractic. So to me, it just seemed far-fetched and it didn't really look or feel like anything was actually happening. But I agreed to do it just because, I knew as a chiropractor it was in my integrity to be getting adjusted, and I wasn't doing it consistent enough just with, friends and mentors on the side. So I committed to it 3 times a week and got on a full care plan. And I just I didn't notice anything at first, but I kept a journal with me because I was like, this is my first time really diving into care. And I documented my experience and nothing. And then all of a sudden one day, like I had this like realization kind of prompted by him, like that I'm like, the Einstein quote where it's like, if you judged a fish on how well it can climb a tree, it's, of course, I don't know the exact quote, but like when everyone else is a monkey and you're a fish, like if you're being graded on how well you're going to climb a tree, of course you're going to fail. And so I had this realization like, hey, I'm different and that's okay. And I'm done comparing and holding up this just trying to be like everybody else. So with that came like freedom. And I felt just like my nervous system truly healing and adapting. And one day I just had this hunch and this feeling of like, I don't need this stuff anymore. So I got my ADD medication, which really was my lifeline. Like I'm a pretty outgoing individual, and I'm hardworking, but like I can't have this lazy streak that is in me, and so I was really worried about getting off of it. But I kicked it, and man, it was hard. It really was. Like as much as I want to say like it was just easy because my nervous system, I still had to adapt to that me. Yeah, so I mean, essentially, I realized that I didn't need that in my life anymore to be myself. I mean, it was a struggle, it was a journey to get to kind of where I am today, to kind of get back to that baseline. But with the help of consistent effort and chiropractic care, and just like having faith that the body does what it does, which is heal, and that I was born the way I was born for a reason. I leaned into that, and I kind of carried that with me through the rest of the school. So that was I think try 3 or 4 whenever I kicked the meds. And you knew me the rest of that time. I was still guns a blazing and showing up like I showed up with it. It was a little harder, but here I am now, thankful that I did it, so I can help people walk that same path.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I was taking notes as you were talking. There's so much to unpack. One of the things that I loved was that quote that you gave. I don't know either that Einstein quote, but something that I use in office with our patients. I say like, listen, this is going to be a process. It's much like running a marathon. If you just tomorrow decided to run a marathon, could you do it? Yeah. I mean, you can give it your best shot. You might finish. It certainly won't be the time that you want, right? And so, like you said, if you attempt it and you don't do as well as you think you should, right? You could potentially go the rest of your life thinking like, oh, I'm just not a runner. Oh, I can't run a marathon, right? It's not the reality of it. You just didn't give yourself enough time, enough practice, enough time under tension that allows you to get to the ultimate goal. Each of those little runs kind of built upon the next. And then, so the other thing that I wanted to kind of get into is, it sounds like you were seemingly a normal kid in quotes, right? Mm-hmm. Happy, playing basketball, playing sports, just kind of in a small town. But there was a lot of other stuff that was kind of going on underneath the surface that I'm sure you probably didn't even know what that was exactly. I'm sure there weren't a lot of resources that just made it available to you. This is probably 10-ish years now. Doesn't seem like a long time ago, but also it still doesn't seem like there was a ton of resources available in general. So for any like parents or for anybody who might be struggling with this personally, what are some things that, talk to a parent, like what should they be noticing in their seemingly normal child who's seemingly very healthy?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I have to mention this because I think this is paramount, like in my growing up and my experience, is that my mom like never let me believe that anything was wrong with me or that I was incapable. My mom, I talk about, my faith, and the reason I have my faith is my mom really represents the purest form of the love of Christ that I've ever met with anyone. And so she just spoke life into me, spoke life over me. She always told me that I was like, she told me that I had something special, and that's why I'm different. Like there's something different about me. There's something special about me. She knew I wasn't like everybody else, and she didn't punish me or hinder me from maybe not doing the best in school. Like it wasn't that. She knew I was giving my best, but it was just hard for me. And so she put me in environments where I could excel, like using like athletics and, storytelling and just like things that required like the creative side of my brain rather than like that analytical focused part of my brain. So that's one thing I'd say to parents is like, if you are noticing things, like one, your kid was designed the way they're designed and they're perfect as they are. So like, don't think that anything's wrong with them. Are there things that would have made my life easier as a child, which now I know if I was getting adjusted, I probably would have, actually not probably, I know I would have felt a lot better in my body. And likely, if I had a lot of that tension off my upper neck where a lot of it resides in my upper cervical, then I know I would be functioning better, and just living better as a kid. But ultimately, I'm grateful for my experience because now I know, and I know what to do as I'm watching my kids and raising my kids. But the biggest thing is, yeah, like I couldn't recommend getting your children checked, even if you don't think anything's going on. Like, just give them the best opportunity to grow and develop with an uninhibited, clear nervous system, and at the same time, give them so much grace and love, and let them know that they are who they are, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I love that. And to kind of continue on that, you had mentioned that that first chiropractor that you had come into contact with, it was like 11 p.m. at night. You just needed some sort of relief. It's a very similar story of how I got into chiropractic. Again, it was around about that age, training for hoops, right? Maybe lifting, maybe not the exact right form you should be lifting with, right? But very similar type of a guy that he's like, yep, come on into the office. He was a family friend, lay down on the table. And I just remember seeing stars like, oh, wow, I wonder what that was. Like my entire life had been leaning up to that. And just like you, that right after that first adjustment, I go, I think I want to do this.
Yeah, right.
And I never wavered from there. So there's a lot of very similar stories. It's a you had mentioned that servant heart, that servant mentality. These are the kinds of people that you're going to find in chiropractic offices, especially I think young chiropractic offices today. I think they have a very good understanding of the struggles, or at least a better understanding of some of the struggles that some kids are going through. And so it's a topic that I kind of want to keep expanding on. So, kind of speak to a little bit of what you felt like when you were just solely on some of that medication, when it was kind of a hybrid model, and then when you had completely kicked it, kind of what were some of the differences you had been noticing?
Yeah, so just to like really be open and honest and raw here, because I mean I think that's where we get the best information. I could, as a kid, without medication, because my mom really did not want to put me on it. It was really my decision to get on the medication. That was later, way later. But as a kid growing up, I talked about I had some of those bedwetting problems, and like I couldn't sleep well. But it was weird. Like it was like I would suppress everything. Like I hit it all, hit it all, hit it all, even as a young kid. And then there would just be this culmination of a lot of stressors, or maybe just one big stressor, like whether it be like I didn't want to do something, an argument with my mom, argument with my sister, or just a frustrating problem, like a math problem, something like that. And I would just blow. Like it was just like nothing held back. Like I would hyperventilate. I would be like hitting the floor, and I just like I at that point, and I can feel it now, man. All I could see was red. I felt like there was no escape, and like it was just like you just had to wait till Colton got out of this storm, to talk to him. But what was cool is that like I needed that, because at the end of that expression was always so much peace and joy and understanding, and then I was able to express what I was feeling. So my mom learned, I learned, but it was like it sucked that we had to go through like that feeling and all that bottled up emotion to finally burst for it to come through. Like, what if there would have been a chiropractic adjustment that removed that stress from my body, so it wasn't all stored and had to come out in a fit? You know what I mean? So that's me speaking on that, and I appreciate y'all listening to that part. As I grew up, it turned into like really only doing things that like I wanted to do. Like in school was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to hang out with friends. And when I was doing that, I was happy. And when I wasn't doing that, I had like this cloud of depression. Like I didn't even want to be home with my family like that much. Like I love my family's so great, but like you ask them, Colton was never home because I was always looking for something to fill me. And so that's kind of how that showed up in high school. And I had a lot of struggle. Like I didn't get on the court as much as I wanted to in basketball, and had some relationship stuff. And I got my junior and senior year, man, darkest times in my life. I was really depressed. I was sad. I was heartbroken. And then I go to college, and I get on my medication, because my very first class was a math class, and it was my worst grade of all. So like second semester of college, I get on ADD medication because I was like, Mom, I can't do this without it, because someone gave me an Adderall in the library, and I was like, wow, I feel alive, and it's like, it's sad, but it's true. And so then I went down this path of taking this medication. And the crazy thing was this Colton, this kid that loved being with people and friends and could go speak in front of a crowd, talk to anybody, became a shell. I was grinding. I was making straight A's. I like never got a B after I got on my medication. I the rest of college, crushed college, but I didn't like talking to people. I was anxious. Like I would go out, we'd go out to the bars in college, and I was like, if I'm not like talking to my friends, I don't know who to talk, I don't know what to do because I'm just so anxious and uncomfortable. And that kind of transitions into chiropractic school. And then now, how I would describe it is, man, like, yeah, I still feel, it's still a challenge at times, motivation wise, but like, I think I have enough will to get to power through. And then when I'm feeling it, I know I need to get adjusted. And that's why I get adjusted consistently. And it's crazy the difference in going weeks without being adjusted and being adjusted consistently. You can see it in how I interact with my wife, with my friends, how I show up in the office, and just kind of like my habits around the house, whether they're how I eat, how I work out, things like that. You can tell whenever I go without chiropractic for a while, and you can chalk it up to whatever you want, but like I recognize that pattern whenever I'm subluxated. And for those listening, the subluxation is just essentially whenever there's interference in your spine where your brain and body can't communicate. And like, of course you're going to make poor decisions when that's going on. And of course you're not going to feel great when that's going on. So that's really my story. And I appreciate everybody listening to that.
And I appreciate you being so vulnerable because we're really living in a time where I think this couldn't be more prevalent. School's getting ready to start back up here, right? We're closing in on the end of August, September, and then this is where school starts. And like you had mentioned, this is not your favorite place. I know several kiddos that come into our office, and I would imagine that there's plenty more that don't exactly love going into school. And then there are some that truly dread it. Like it's truly a place of just kind of a house of horrors because they're constantly forced to have to sit there and be quiet and listen and don't move and talk to people for a couple of minutes, go over here, go over there. And parents, they don't know what to do and they watch their kids struggle and it's heartbreaking. And so it gets to the point where they finally take them to some doctor and they say like, well, we can give them, I guess, these pills. There a couple of stats I got just straight out of the CDC website. 1 out of every 4 kids take a daily prescription drug for a chronic illness. 1 out of every 10 kids are diagnosed with ADD and ADHD. In the last 20 years, the use of prescription and illicit opioids has caused the death of well over 10,000 American kids. And that's just kids, right? It is an endemic. Kids are struggling. There's never been more stress, in my opinion, in the world today, whether it's emotional, physical, chemical. All of those things add up, right? We as humans like to compartmentalize. It's all still just stress, and it's all something that your body has to efficiently adapt to. And these kids are having a hard time doing it. We're both here in Texas. We know how hot it can be, right? It gets up to 107, 108. And if your AC is not working efficiently, and you set that bad boy all the way down at 68, you're putting a pretty serious energy demand on that system. Maybe it only gets down to like 73 degrees, right? So what ends up happening is that AC is just constantly running. It doesn't ever stop, right?
Yeah.
And then after a while, it wears out. It stops doing its job. And then you get frustrated with the AC. Why aren't you doing your job? It wasn't efficient enough to be able to keep up with the energy demands that it was being put under on a daily basis, which is really, that's what we do as chiropractors. And that's what I was going to pass it off to you. What do we do? Why do we help kids? Why do we help people? Why is it that what we do is so important?
Man, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Life is stressful, like, and that's okay. Like that's a necessary part of life. That's necessary for us to grow and adapt. We've done it since the beginning of time, but we have quite a bit of stress in this life that we're living in today. New ones like technology, like toxins in our food, and when we're bombarded with stressors, like we have the ability, yes, to overcome and adapt them. But what happens when they're too much for us to overcome and adapt? Then that stress, that potential energy, that gets stored in our nervous system, and we're not able to properly live, respond, and react in our environment. This is adults, but think about your kiddos, man, that they can't really just, they might not be able to describe this. This might come out in different sensory problems or just effects, really. And the cause is that inability to adapt to the stressors of life. That AC analogy is fantastic. I'm going to steal that. But yeah, so the thing is, like, also moms, parents out there, have grace, because like if you don't know better, how can you do better? So first off, like, just acknowledge that, like, if you have gone down that path, it's, you know, you did it, it's fine. But you have the ability and you have the resources. With Alex and I can refer you to so many great chiropractors to make that change, to seek a natural alternative, to help your child's nervous system adapt to these stressors so that they can grow up and be this vibrant young kiddo. And you can be that vibrant person without interference in your nervous system and truly live life from a state of ease rather than vigilance. I think that is one of the coolest ways to look at it. Like, we can live our life with blinders on, going through overwhelmed, stressed out, vigilant, or we can be open, we can have ease, and we can take a big breath in and enjoy this life we're living in.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. We say, we have a saying in our office all the time: there are no bad parents and there are no bad kiddos, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times parents bring their kids in and they say that they're having struggles, they're emotional, they don't make a lot of friends, they have troubles with these things, and they wonder why that is. Well, it's because we go back to that AC analogy, right? So they're constantly in this fight or flight mode. So have you ever been, again, let's stick with Texas. Have you ever been on a highway in Dallas at right around 5:30? It is a high stress environment, right? There are things happening, right? You are not your normal self when you're driving at 5:30 p.m. on 6:35 in Dallas, Texas. It's a whole different person, right? Because you are on high alert. Your nervous system is ready for anything. There's constant danger, and if somebody, even if they kind of cut you off, it's not even like really cutting you off. All of a sudden, you might let a 4-letter word fly. You might yell, you might scream. All of a sudden, that's not you. You might jack the wheel. Now, if that happened in the grocery store at 2:30 p.m., I would imagine you wouldn't have the same reaction. Why is it? It's because you were in that heightened state. Your nervous system was on 10. Mm-hmm. That's what your kids are dealing with at all hours of the day. They're going 75 miles an hour on the highway, and they don't know how to slow it down, and they're scared, and they don't know what to do, and they're tired, they don't get enough sleep, and all of this starts to compound, and they don't know how to tell you this other than, I need my way, right? All of these things are happening so fast for them. Again, it's like going 75 miles an hour on the highway. You don't have a lot of time to come up with things. And so if it's time to go, all of a sudden it feels like, no, this is moving too fast. Feels slow to us, but it's heightened for them.
Yeah, man, what an awesome analogy. I mean, kiddos, adults, that analogy, that's exactly what would happen. Like, I lived in that state until it was just too much, and then there goes the pile up.
Mm-hmm. You would let it fly. There it goes, right? And so has your why. Now you've been in practice for a little while now, and people, they love talking about their why. Why did I get into chiropractic? Who do I want to help? Has that changed at all for you? If it's changed, how has it changed? If it stayed the same, what was it in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's funny. Like, that why has just been asked since the beginning of school. And I always felt like there was something like, why don't I have a why like everyone else's? But I do have my why, and my why is simple. So what I would say, my why is expanded. Like, the vision's been bigger, but it's more of a definite purpose. And I always say, my goal in this world is to live a life reflective of Jesus. And I'm going to fall short on that every single day, every hour, every minute. But to strive to live like Jesus is the goal of mine. That means spreading hope, spreading love, putting my hands on people, and trying to heal in the greatest way possible, while also creating just freedom and health and just love within my family, within my immediate circle. But lately, what I'd say it's expanded to is I have the vision of a whole community that's free from these overwhelming stressors that shut us down, however you want to describe that. So a subluxation-free community, a community that is open, at ease, and loving. It means where kids are getting well. Kids are not being pumped with all these medications. Adults are loving each other, not fighting, not arguing, and on Facebook and in the marketplace. So we're all just there supporting each other and growing. And I think I have I'm crazy enough to think like that can in my office in Allen, Texas. And we just got to get the word out, man. And so that's my vision, really, to transform a community through chiropractic care.
No, and I love that. And you've been going at this, by yourself, essentially. What made you want to just kind of go out into the world and just kind of plant your flag and say, like, here I am, I'm going to start changing the world, like you said, in that little office in Allen, Texas. What made you want to do that?
It goes back to kind of like what I talked about with my mom when I was a kiddo. Like, she told me there was something special about me. It might not have shown up in my grades, but like, I've always believed it, man. I've always believed there's something special. And so when I got to chiropractic school, like I said, like, I met you, I met Zach, Grant, Spence, Maurice, like, just, and so many people I'm not naming, but I remember specifically I was at a hand alchemy seminar, and it was my first seminar, and Dr. Bynum was right there, and like, I delivered an adjustment. I'm like, don't say anything, I guess. But
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly
they can't get you now.
Deep, yeah, they can't get me now. But it was like my first adjustment, and it was amazing. And like, he like instilled, I had never seen like someone that young deliver something like that. So it instilled a confidence in me, and just this desire to get better in all areas, in the philosophy, in the art of it all, and then also in science and doing well in school. So like, I really gave it my all when I got into chiropractic school, and that was thanks to you and the guys that I mentioned also. Just kind of gleaning off of y'all and what y'all were doing, and y'all kind of gave me a path to express myself, which was cool with all the clubs we were leading. And I remember going to a samurai series. We both were a part of that with Dr. Paula Feely, and just it was like the first time that I like made a promise to myself that I'm going to open a practice. And I just really didn't veer from that. Got to see Dr. Fowler crush it and saw what was possible in my internship. That's what I did in my last semester of school. And yeah, man, I just felt like God put on my heart that like I was to do my thing. And I have a lot of confidence in my ability to adjust. And where I had the lack of confidence was in my like communication and business, but just like anything, I knew, and I still have faith that I'm going to figure it out. And but the thing about me is I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep pushing, and I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to give it my very best. And whatever that turns out as is what it turns out as. But I know right now I'm loving those four walls that I'm in. It's a small practice, but we're seeing awesome results, and people are getting well, and people are loving chiropractic, and people are paying for it, whether you believe it or not. And that's a cool thing too. People are trusting me to be their chiropractor, so it's very special, and I'm so grateful. And this isn't the way. There is no right way to do it. Associating is fantastic. Opening up your own practice is fantastic. They each have their own wins and losses with them. But this is my path right now, and I'm glad I did it. I think this is where God wants me.
I love it. And we've got a lot of entrepreneurs watching the show. We got a lot of students. We got a lot of moms, and parents in general. And something that I'm always trying to instill when anybody asks me anything about, like you said, setting up a practice or starting a small business, and you start listening to all these gurus and all of these experts, and some of them are good, and some of them are, just say not as good, right? But something that it took me a long time to understand is that they have been able to distill down in what they've learned in decades into minutes on podcasts, on different avenues like this, YouTube channels. They've been able to take 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of struggle and compress it down into minutes. And just because you could listen to it or watch it in minutes does not mean you should be getting those results in minutes, even if they tell you you should be getting these results in minutes. Mm-hmm. So that's always something that I try to instill into our listeners, that this is a process and it does take time. Yeah. So, I'm sure, we always kind of end the show like this. I'm sure nobody's listening. I'm sure it was just you and me having a conversation. But for that past version of you that happens to be listening to this podcast somewhere out there that would resonate with this, what is it that they need, what they needed to hear at that time? And what would you tell them?
And I would tell them a few things. One, it's going to be okay. Like, really? Like, what are you stressing about? Like, and I'm telling myself that right now. Like, it's going to be okay. So there's a first thing. So just rest in that peace, like in understanding like that you have what you need already inside of you and you are enough as you are right now. But then two, like this takes work. No one's gonna do it for you. Like Jim Parker says, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And that's the truth. And so whether you're someone looking into chiropractic school, whether you're a mom with a kiddo at home, whether you're in a business owner, whatever it is, like no one's going to do it for you. So just show up, have grace with the whole thing, but like put one foot in front of each other each day and give it your very best. That's what I'm doing right now. And know that it's going to be okay. Like truly, it's all good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, Tony Robbins always says people or overestimate what they can do in a year, and they vastly underestimate what they can do in 5, 10, 20 years. So you're going to get there. It's going to happen. Like you said, put one foot in front of the other. Man, this was fun. I appreciate your time, man. Let the people know where they can find you on all the socials, plug whatever you got to plug, all that good stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. You can find me on Instagram as Dr. Colton O'Brien. And also my business is Trinity Life Chiropractic. You can find that on social media as well. Same with Facebook, Colton O'Brien, Trinity Life Chiropractic. You don't want to see my Twitter. I don't put anything on there.
But X now, right?
That's true. But yeah, just message me. I'm an open book. Like I definitely don't claim to have all the answers, but like one thing I do have is 2 ears, and I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to help in any way I can. And I love this stuff, man. I truly love chiropractic and I love people. And if you need anything, hit me up. Truly.
Well, I think that definitely comes through. Give this guy a like, give him a follow. If something resonated with you, shoot him a DM, shoot us a DM. We're looking to build, like Dr. Colton said, a community of people that just want to get better. Mm-hmm. So until next time, I'm Dr. Alex DeFrancisco, and this is the Innate Effect Podcast.